Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the show. It is our final segment, and I'm joined by another Johnny, which is always a good thing. Somewhat rare, to be honest with you. Johnny Ochsenfeld, a student at the University of Rhode Island. Welcome back to the show, man.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, always good. And I know your area of expertise as a sportscaster contributor is with the UFC. And there's some, I would say some news with respect to, becoming more accessible to more fans. I think it's a sport that continues to grow. And I think the UFC is figuring out, hey, let's make it more accessible, and let's see this growth rate grow exponentially.
Yeah, totally. I mean, starting 2026, the new Paramount deal, I think that's incredible for the fans. So we'll definitely dive into that.
When I know you've been on the show before, and for those that may not be as familiar with the sport, what was it for you? And I love watching UFC, but I know it's not for everybody. What was it for you that that kind of grabbed you and pulled you in? Do you remember where and when?
Yeah, of course, it's a pretty niche sport. It's violent, obviously. So it's not going to be for everybody. But I think, like beginning of like early high school, I'd say I got really into it. I started with boxing when I was younger. I always appreciated boxing for like the art it was, and I think that's kind of how I got into MMA. I always loved boxing, but I feel like MMA is more exciting because you have the striking, you have the grappling, the wrestling. So I think with combat sports, I appreciate the art form that it is, and then everything else that comes with it.
Who currently would you say is helping to drive the sport forward? Like, who are some names right now that maybe people aren't as familiar with as a household name that but you feel like is kind of the torchbearer to lead this thing forward?
Yeah, that's a good question because I think we're in a state right now where we don't have too many big names, household names that even if you're not a combat sports fan, you know them. And I think with this new Paramount deal, we could get a lot of those names. But right now, I think a few guys that could drive this sport forward are the likes of Ilya Taporia. He is, I think, maybe one of the best fighters ever. The way he throws his combinations, he's so well rounded. He has so much power, and right now he's maybe having the best prime we've ever seen. He's got a unique personality, so I think he could be a pretty big star in the sport. This past weekend, we saw Hamzat Chimaev put on one of the most dominant performances we've ever seen in the octagon. He also has a very unique personality and is one of the more dominant fighters this sport has ever seen. So I think he could be a big name in the future. And then, of course, maybe the biggest name in the past few years is Alex Pereira. A lot of people know him. He's been super active recently. He's fighting for the title once again in a few months. So I think he's a big name. I think those are probably the three biggest names we have in the sport right now.
Sure. Johnny Ochsenfeld from University of Rhode Island, sportscaster.com contributor, one of our newest contributors. Um, Give us a quick sense before we get into your commentary on the new major media rights deal. Give us a sense of what it's like being a content creator on the daily, and how locked in you have to be when people are looking to you like, hey, Johnny, yo, what do I need to know? I mean, you really you don't get too many days off, I would imagine.
No, there's really no days off. I've been doing this on TikTok for 2.5 years. I mean, I started in March of 2022, I believe. So it's been quite a while, maybe 23, I forget, but I've been doing this for a while. And to grow on social media, I think the biggest thing, no matter where your content is or whatnot, but I think you have to be consistent. That is the number one thing. So if you're posting every day, no matter how good the content is, of course, it'll improve over time. My first videos were terrible compared to what they are now. But if you're consistent over a period of time, I think you're going to grow. I mean, for me, I was posting 3 videos a day for like a year and a half straight. I didn't take a single day off. So it gets overwhelming at points. Of course, it seems simple. Oh, you're just posting a little video. But after a while, the burnout gets real. It does. So you have to just be consistent. You have to grind through it. And finding video ideas are hard. I mean, after doing this for so long, it comes to a point where what do I even talk about?
Yeah.
That's why I like the UFC because there's technically no off season, so there's always fresh things happening and there's content to make. But yeah, it gets hard after a while, but you just got to keep pushing through.
Yeah, good stuff. We'll keep pushing through. And as we know, UFC and a lot of mixed martial arts, it used to be pretty much a pay per view sport. That's no longer the case. It is more accessible to all. Johnny Ochsenfeld, student at URI, with more on that in this week's commentary.
Starting in 2026, the UFC will be streaming their fights on Paramount Plus and CBS. They just signed a $7.7 billion deal spanning across 7 years, officially meaning the end to the ESPN and UFC partnership. Now, for reference, the ESPN deal was 7 years for $550 million, and this new Paramount Plus deal is 7 years for $1.1 billion. So it is pretty much double the ESPN deal, and per event, the UFC will be making a roughly $25 million. So that is an incredible amount, and probably the biggest talking point from this deal, absolutely the biggest talking point from this deal, is the end to the pay-per-view model. Starting in 2026 with this new deal, the UFC and Paramount Plus will not have a pay-per-view model. There will just be a subscription you need to sign up for, just like Paramount Plus is right now, and then you will have every single fight that you want for $8 a month at the minimum. Paramount Plus has 2 subscriptions that you could sign up for that won't change in 2026. You could spend $8 to get Paramount Plus with ads, or $13 to get it without ads. And as I said, that won't change when they start streaming UFC fights. Now, compared to ESPN, which we're in the ESPN phase, I guess you could say right now, it is $13 for ESPN Plus. You need to pay that monthly to watch every single fight, whether it be fight night or pay-per-view. And then to get the pay-per-view on top of that, you need to spend $80. The UFC have roughly 1 pay-per-view a month. So you do the math, that's $13 plus $80. That's over $100 a month. And then if you add that up through the span of 12 months through the year, that's over $1,000 to watch every UFC fight that you might want right now with ESPN. Now, if you head over to Paramount, which we're doing, and say you only want to spend $8 a month, easy, that is only $100 roughly. That's pretty damn good. I think this is fantastic news for the UFC and UFC fans across the world, because now the UFC will be more accessible to everybody. Say you can't spend $80 a month, $13 a month on ESPN Plus. Absolutely fair. That's hard for a lot of people. Now you could spend $8 a month and get absolutely every fight. So I think this is a big win for the UFC and for the fans, because now the UFC has a much larger demographic that they could promote to. More people are going to be able to get into the sport, and in turn, the UFC might make actually more money. Of course, they're not, handing out $80 for a pay-per-view, but now more people are going to be getting on that subscription to watch every fight. The UFC demographic is going to be a whole lot bigger. And for the fan side, it's $8 a month. It's $8 a month. That's absolutely brilliant. And as I said, the UFC is going to have an expanded demographic. Does that mean they're going to put on better fights and better cards because they can make more money now? They have a larger demographic that they can promote to. When we had the pay-per-views, year after year, the UFC kind of knew who they're promoting to. They know their demographic with the pay-per-views. But now, with this new model, no pay-per-view, it's an easy subscription, they have a lot more people they can promote to. So do they really, really stack these fight cards? That's what I want to see. Dana White also briefly mentioned that these fight cards are not going to be watered down. If anything, they're going to be better. So that is also something we love to hear. He also mentioned that fighter bonuses will go up. So if you are not familiar with the UFC, if you have one of the best knockouts on a card, say you put on a performance of the night, you will usually get $50K on top of your base salary. But now, with this new Paramount Plus deal, Dana White said fighter pay, the base pay will be increased, and bonuses will also be increased. So this is a huge W for the UFC, for the fighters, and for the fans, in my opinion. With this current ESPN deal and the pay-per-view model, a lot of fans in the community have felt like these pay-per-views have been watered down. There's just way too many fight cards with not enough big names. So I hope that changes with the Paramount Plus deal, and I think it's absolutely going to, because as I said, the demographic that the UFC can promote to now is so much bigger. So I think they're going to make these cards better. I mean, I could ask you guys who aren't in the UFC and really know nothing about it, can you name an active UFC fighter right now? I think it's pretty hard to. I mean, the biggest stars we have in the sport right now are the likes of Ilya Taporia, Alex Pereira, Hamzat Chimaev. You guys might have no idea who these guys are. And sure, that's a problem. That is a problem for the UFC. So once they switch over to Paramount Plus, they can really start to promote these guys because you don't need to spend a lot of money to see them. They can really start to promote these names. And I hope by the year 2027, 28, 29, we have some household names in not just mixed martial arts and combat sports, but in the sports world. I want to see the likes of Ilya Taporia and Hamzat Chimaev being known to the wider audience. And I can see that absolutely happening during this Paramount Plus era, you could call it. I've made countless videos on my own covering this topic, but I truly think for the athletes, for the UFC as a company making more money for them, and for the fans, I think this is a huge win for everybody across the board. I think this sport in 3, 4, 5 years is going to be much more mainstream than it is right now. I think it's going to be accessible to the wider audience. UFC fighters are going to be making a lot more money, which they deserve. The UFC could be making more money. The promotion for these fights are going to be up, in my opinion. I think this is a massive, massive turning point for combat sports. I absolutely love this deal with the UFC and Paramount Plus.
Our thanks to Johnny Ochsenfeld for his take on the MMA and UFC, kind of abandoning what was just a pay-per-view system, and now with an opportunity to make that product or make their sports available to more, to a wider audience. And I think as that sport continues to grow, the more accessibility the viewers have, it'll be an exponential rise in the attention, in viewership that the UFC will get. So our thanks to Johnny Ochsenfeld. He's a student at the University of Rhode Island and one of our SportsCaster.com contributors. Always does a nice job with his focus on the UFC. Also want to thank Matt O'Brien. He is a SportsCaster.com contributor who took a deep dive into the NBA and what's happening out on the West Coast, the left coast, the Los Angeles Clippers heading into the 25-26 season. And then on a high school level, we want to thank Gavin Velesevic from De La Salle Collegiate. He's an aspiring broadcaster and part of the Sportscaster program, as he talked about the MHSAA reclassification and realignment heading into the upcoming high school football season. And our first guest on the show today, Ryder Sloan, did such a nice job in talking with Detroit Lions rookie receiver Isaac Tesla. So a nice one-on-one from Lions training camp. If you want to hear Ryder's interview, just go to our sportscaster.com and go to Ryder's channel. You can hear that interview in its entirety, or any of the interviews that you heard here on this week's show on Open Mic. Just log on to sportscaster.com and you can search your way through. As always, we appreciate you guys tuning in. We're here every Wednesday night from 8 to 9 on WJR Radio. And with high school football season coming up in just a couple of weeks now, there will be plenty for you to listen to and plenty for us to talk about on Open Mic over the next several weeks as we transition from summer into fall. But thanks again to all our guests being on the show today, and thanks again for listening. I'm Johnny Kane, your host, and we will see you again next time.